Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what a difference just a couple of weeks makes. Let me tell you what I think it is that these big banks do, as well as the Federal Reserve, the Treasury, the government. This is what they do in order to keep the markets at bay, in order to try to control the market to their favor when they want to control it to their favor, is they say what they think they need to say. It doesn't matter if there's any validity behind it. It doesn't matter if the fundamentals are like, yeah, that makes sense what you're saying, or they're like, are you crazy? It doesn't matter because most of the people fall for it. Most of your retail investors out there fall for it. And these are the people that are going to lose everything when the markets finally crash. Remember that back in the Great Depression or the Great Crash of 1929, it took like 26 years before the markets ever recovered. That's an entire generation. So you have to ask yourself a question. Do you have an entire generation to wait for your funds in the market to recover should we experience a crash like we did back in 1929? Look at 2008. Yes, after 2008, we had huge. It was like the Roaring 20s, the 2008, and all the way through here, through now. So between 2008 through now, all the money they pumped into the market was like the Roaring 20s. But ask yourselves, what about those people that lost everything in 2008? Did they have the capital to start over again and to start enjoying all of the quantitative easing that the government and the Federal Reserve were putting out? I would say not. I would say that the ones that had that opportunity were the big banks, the big investors, the people that already had a lot of money to begin with, the people that can sway the markets to their favor. So here on 25th June 2022, this Goldman Sachs banker, he stated that, I'm not going to read this whole article, he stated that while inflation is very high, I don't think it's as entrenched, certainly not as entrenched in inflation expectations as it was in previous higher inflation episodes like in the 70s and the earlies. So he's pretty much saying that, hey, inflation's not going to be too bad. Maybe it's high, but it's not going to last very long. Well, now I want to go ahead and point you to this article here. They just came out a day or two ago. And here we go, from Goldman Sachs. Expect inflation to get much worse this summer and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, now they're telling us that inflation is going to probably double by the end of this summer, especially your food and your fuel prices. Many economists are now saying that inflation is going to get much worse this summer and will continue beyond the hottest months of the year. Economists at Goldman Sachs, all right, the one that I read for you before that was about 2 weeks ago, that was an economist from Goldman Sachs. But here they say economists from Goldman Sachs have even hiked their inflation projections this past weekend. Goldman Sachs also warned clients that recent strong price spikes seem similar to those that preceded record inflation decades ago. So here, a couple of weeks ago, they were like, yeah, it's nothing like the 70s and 80s. And now they're like, yeah, it's just like the 70s and 80s. Joining other experts in forecasting inflation will last longer than previously expected. So before where it was, yeah, it's going to be short-lived. Now it's going to last longer than previously expected. Just a couple of weeks old, ladies and gentlemen. That is why you have to do your own homework. You have to do your own research. You have to go out there and look and see what things are looking like. Did you see the video that I put out earlier today where I went to Safeway in Fairbanks? $5 for a can of Progresso soup. Incredible. And that's not inflation, ladies and gentlemen. That's nothing like the 70s and 80s. In a note to clients Sunday night, Goldman economists said they expect consumer prices to rise more quickly later this summer as transportation and health insurance costs continue to surge, pushing core inflation, which excludes volatile food and energy prices, from 6% in May to 6.3% in September. Now, this is just core inflation. To explain to you all what core inflation is everything that does not include food and energy, the things that we need to live. The real world translation could mean an almost doubling of food prices and energy costs by the end of August. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, I never rejoice in the fact that something that I've said in the past comes to be, especially when it is something that will affect the American people in a negative way. But if you haven't been paying attention, pay attention. Please don't listen to me. This is not coming from me. This is coming from PhDs at Goldman Sachs. This is coming from people that have the word doctor after their name. Do you think that maybe you ought to be going out there and stocking up now? I'm afraid that my prediction earlier this year that food prices and energy prices would go up 100%, between 50 and 100% by the end of this year. I'm afraid that that's not even going to be close, that it's going to be more. Just a doubling in food and energy prices between now and the end of summer will put us at well over 100% food inflation and energy inflation from the beginning of this year. How in the world are people going to survive? I could not imagine having a family of 4 or 5 and making 50 grand a year. Because how in the world can you survive making $50,000 a year on a family of 4 or 5? You have to just barely survive. It must be a nightmare for families like that to have to go to the grocery store. It must be a nightmare for them to see the prices that we're seeing at the grocery stores, and now they're going to double just in a short few months. And listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. Inflation on critical goods such as food and energy will push many to the edge. In the not too distant future, many will be making decisions about how they will need to allocate their funds to heat their home or feed their children. Goodness gracious, these people are parroting what we all in the prepper community have been talking about for the last 2 years. That you will one day have to choose whether to heat your home or feed your family. It makes me upset, ladies and gentlemen, because I know for a fact, I know people are going to suffer. And the fact of the matter is that if you go out there right now and instead of buying that pizza dinner on Friday night, if you go out there and you buy a couple of 50-pound bags of rice, or a 50-pound bag of rice and a 25-pound bag of beans and some salt and some spices, some oil, things that are now fairly affordable, although they've gone up in price significantly since the beginning of this year, they're still affordable. And listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. Does this sound familiar? The end game is a central bank digital currency, and in order to get there and to get human beings to accept and willingly agree to their own enslavement, they have to completely destroy the current slave system. What system is that, ladies and gentlemen? The one that we are currently in, the fiat dollar currency system, the one where you get taxed to death and your labor is worth less and less every year. That's the system we're in right now. But they want to go ahead and reset everything so that they can put us into this new system, digital currency system, that has one ruler, one person pushing the buttons.
Our analysis on CBDC, in particular for the use of general use, we tend to establish the equivalence with cash, and there is a huge difference there. For example, in cash, we don't know, for example, who's using a $100 bill today. We don't know who is using a 1,000 peso bill today. A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control. Is that central bank will have absolute control.
Is that central bank will have absolute control
on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also we will have the technology to enforce that. And also we will have the technology to enforce that.
And also we will have the technology to enforce that.
Fortunately, that gives us a small window of opportunity to escape. We need to dismantle the current slave system and never institute another where any human has control over any other. Amen. But unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, I have to agree with what they're saying here. Yet, based on how many bowed down at the altar of government and got the vitamin shot multiple times upon command from their master, too many seem all too willing to crawl on their knees and beg to be allowed to live on this planet. I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, people better wake up, because everything that they say here, in my opinion, is going to come to be. And a lot of the things that we've been saying for the last couple of years, several years, have come to be. All right, so for those that were saying you're crazy, you know, food's not going to go up that much in price, fuel's not going to go up that much in price. A year ago, when we were shouting it on top of our lungs, and now they're saying you're crazy. There's never going to be a digital currency that's controlled by only one entity, the Federal Reserve / the government. You're crazy. That's never going to happen. They're never going to be able to demonetize my life. That's what they can do. Demonetize your life. Oh, look at what they did to the truckers in Canada. Look at what the only difference between what they did to the truckers in Canada and what the CBDC will translate to is that it'll be a lot easier. So to end it, ladies and gentlemen, there is going to be a giveaway associated with the video that I put up reviewing the 4-jar lids. All right, so go watch that video. Make sure that you enter to win, and then you also have to be present at tomorrow's live stream, because whoever watches that video and is at tomorrow's live stream and gets chosen, that's going to be the winner, and we're going to be giving away 2 packages of those 4-jar lids, and they are pretty good lids as far as I'm concerned, and it's a good company as well. In addition to that, if you haven't watched my video from earlier today on the prices, go check it out. I'll leave those cards on the upper right hand corner of this video. Other than that, remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out.